Welcome back to Lead Empowered TV. I am your host, Nathan Mitchell. Let me ask you something. What if stress, or what if the stress that you've learned to push through is actually the very thing that's quietly derailing your performance? And not just your health, but your clarity, your energy, your ability to lead at your highest level. Today's guest, Cynthia Fluck, has built her work around that exact question. With a background in physics from the U.S. Naval Academy and nearly a decade in the U.S. military, Cynthia understands high-performance environments at a level that most don't. But instead of walking away from science, she followed it deeper into the patterns that most traditional systems overlook. And as the founder of Crescent Holistic Health, she works with high-achieving women who have been told that everything looks normal, yet they know that something isn't right. Through her emergence method, she helps uncover what's really going on beneath the surface, integrating functional medicine, energy work, and nervous system restoration. And this isn't just professional, it's really personal. Her own journey through postpartum depression, chronic dysregulation, and loss reshaped how she sees health, healing, and what it takes to truly show up fully in life and leadership. If you have ever felt like you've on the outside, but something's off underneath, I guarantee you this conversation is going to be for you today. Cynthia, welcome so much to the show. Such a pleasure to have you here today. How are you?
Thanks for having me. Thank
Great.
you.
How was your weekend?
It was interesting. Actually, my boys got their wisdom teeth out, so I've been playing nurse all weekend.
Yeah, that's interesting. My son just turned 16 and he just had his taken out last week also. So we've been, I should say he's been eating a lot of ice cream and that kind of stuff around the house
Yes.
lately. But
Yeah.
Anyway, it has been a simple process so far. So that's good. I hope you can say the same for your boys. But Cynthia, we only got about 30 minutes together. I know this is an important conversation. I know you have a lot of great stuff to share with my audience. So let's get started. Your journey from physics, in the military into holistic health is really anything but typical, right? At the end of the day. And what were the defining moments, for you that really pushed you from, a structured high performance environment into the world of entrepreneurship and helping women holistically?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it could take a long time to answer, but I'll get to the points. So, I was always very mumuch a high performance kind of person. I was always go, go, go. I wanted to succeed, be at the top, and actually after the military, I kind of went into military phase 2, working for a major defense contractor. And when I was there, I was being mentored by a very high level female executive. And at the time, my aspirations were to become an executive, to rise up in the ranks and climb the corporate ladder. And in working with her, I started to see she was working around the clock. She really didn't seem to have much of a personal life, didn't have time for her family. She was just always tired and aging quickly. And she just looked worn out all the time. And I just remember looking at her and going, man, she's so successful, but she's just incredibly unhappy. And I said, I just don't want to be that. And I decided at that point I needed to find a new way to look at things. And it's a really unfortunate truth that for women, especially in that kind of environment, we have to work twice as hard to get seen as equal to men. And I'm not a feminist or anything like that, but it's just an unfortunate reality. And there's just no room for mistakes for women trying to climb the corporate ladder. And so there's just that much extra pressure. So I ended up getting out of the corporate world and going into real estate from there. And then just a series of personal health challenges and watching another mentor of mine die from cancer, and watching my sister die from cancer and my dad die from cancer, and just all of these different things made me start asking really deep questions that led me down the path of holistic health. And I just organically fell into it, and it was my calling. It just felt right to me.
Yeah, well, you lost so many important people that were very dear to you, right? From cancer. And, you and I have had conversations before. And, We've talked about how the medical community today, we seem to keep people sick, right? And I think you have higher expectations than that, and really want to get to the root cause of what's causing the issue, so people don't have to take that step to begin with.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. I'm so tired of having people be reactive with their health. And it's unfortunate that in today's society, at least in the United States, if you do nothing more than live what's considered a normal, healthy lifestyle or a normal lifestyle, you're pretty much guaranteed a chronic disease by the time you're 40. Like you have to be abnormally healthy. You have to go against the grain. You have to know what to look at, what to believe, and how to help yourself to stay healthy and stay ahead of the game. Because our healthcare system, as you say, it's really a sick care system. It's reactive, and with the exception of trauma care, it's largely unneeded.
Yeah. Well, that's such an alarming statistic. By the age of 40, if you live a normal life, you're going to more than likely have a chronic disease. And I'm going to be 50 in July. So I'm 10 years beyond that. Unfortunately, I haven't been, diagnosed with anything yet, but none of us really know what's lying underneath that's undiagnosed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Until we start having
Yeah.
symptoms and those types of things.
Right, right. And I mean, the key is really one to kind of know some basics of
Hmm.
how to live for prevention and how to really take care of yourself. And then second is those symptoms are really communication to your body. They're the language of your body that's asking for help. And when we start to look at our physiology as something we can work with instead of something to be afraid of, we can start looking at those symptoms, and instead of saying, dang, I have a headache, I need to take some ibuprofen or whatever to get
Right.
rid of it, start saying, well, why do I keep getting these headaches?
Yeah.
Is it because I'm getting them every month because my hormones are imbalanced? Is it because, I'm not getting enough oxygen to my blood? Is it because I have high histamines, right? There's any number of reasons why you might be getting headaches, but listening to your intuition and really looking at those symptoms as gifts is a key to start understanding your body and how to work with it and to stay healthy and ahead of your health.
Well, Cynthia, you work with high achieving women, and they're often
Mhm.
told, everything looks normal. How do you see workplace stress and pressure masking or even amplifying what's really going on underneath inside of the body?
Right. So, I mean, especially for women, as I talked about, since high performing women really have to be on the ball all the time, it feels like there's never any room for self care. And what we do when we place ourselves in a stress state all the time is we never give our body a chance to rest and recover. Our body cannot heal in a without that rest and recover state. And not only do we go through cycles that we're familiar with, like circadian rhythms for sleeping, we also go through cycles around every 90 minutes of the day where our body is naturally either in a heightened state of awareness or in a rest and relaxed state. And we need to honor those cycles and actually take breaks throughout the day and go stretch, go for a walk, go to the water fountain, whatever the case may be, and just let your nervous system go back into rest and relax for a few minutes with some deep breathing. And that really helps keep energy up. But really, where that constant stress hurts is over time, we start to deteriorate our bodies overall, just because we're not getting the rejuvenation we need. But it also places our mind very much in a lower state of thinking. We lose higher reasoning. We lose problem solving skills. We lose pattern recognition. We lose the things that we don't need when we're running away from the tiger in the woods, right? We lose that higher thinking. So when you take the time to down regulate that stress, you're actually leading better. You're more efficient. You're setting a better example for those following you. You're able to be better in the workplace. Whereas if you're stressed all the time and on the go, there's so much you're missing and so much efficiency that you're losing.
Yeah, so let's dig into that a little bit more, because I want to
Mm-hmm.
know from your perspective, what are leaders missing, when it comes to how chronic stress is really not only impacting their health, but also, their engagement in the workplace or team members' engagement in the workplace. You touched on this just briefly a minute ago, their ability to make, sound decisions, to problem solve effectively, and just overall performance in general. How does it impact them, and more importantly, impact their team if they're not able to operate at an optimal level?
Right. Well, I love leaders say, do as I say, not as I do, right?
Right,
But
exactly.
your actions are really what your team is following, right?
Yeah.
Imagine a team that has a leader that is constantly on the go, is micromanaging, is constantly stressed out, right? That sets the example and it sets the tone for how your team performs as well. So if you can learn to be more relaxed and calm and take things methodically and step back away from the equation to be less micromanaging and allow freedom and room for your team to breathe, you're going to have a much healthier team and people are going to want to follow you much more readily. Whereas, if the opposite, if what you do is the kind of energy that you're going to project onto your team and onto the people beneath you and how they perform.
So, what are some just practical things that somebody can do during the day? When they're in the moment, maybe it's a 5-minute pause or something like that. If they notice that they're in a state of stress, they kind of get outside of that so they can come back to whatever is on the agenda for that day with a fresh mindset. They're not as stressed. They can bring their best version of themselves to their team, etc.
Right. So probably one of the most powerful things you can do is deep breathing. And it just only takes a couple of minutes, and breathing through the nose is really important as opposed to the mouth. When we breathe through our mouth, we actually upregulate our sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight nervous system. We put ourselves into a stress state by breathing through the mouth. When we breathe through the nose, it activates our parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and relax state, helps tone the vagus nerve. When we breathe deeply, like in through the lungs, filling the lungs and really breathing through the stomach instead of breathing through the chest, that kind of deep rhythmic in and out breathing, it gets heart-brain coherence going, which gives us more higher thinking. We actually have neurons in our heart. I don't know if you knew that, but when we get those neurons in our heart synced with the neurons in our brain, we're thinking on a much higher level, much more intelligent level. Breathing through the nose also, going through our sinuses, not only moisturizes the air to keep us more hydrated, but it activates the nitric oxide producers in our sinuses, which helps to dilate our blood vessels and lower our blood pressure and get us more calmed down. So it only really takes a couple of minutes of deep breathing through the nose to really start to activate that parasympathetic nervous system. When you're doing that throughout the day, you start to train yourself and train your nervous system to be in a rest and relax state as a default instead of as a one-off, right? We want to be in that rest and relax state most of the time. We're only designed to be in a sympathetic nervous system state for short spurts of time. Anything more than that, we start to dysregulate our adrenals. We start to dysregulate our healing ability. We start to dysregulate our thinking. Everything starts to fall apart, and that's when you start getting those two o'clock in the afternoon crashes and waking up in the middle of the night because your adrenals are dysregulated. All of that stuff. So. It affects a lot.
One of the things that you've created is the emergence method. Can you break that down for us, and how your approach really helps someone move from burnout or dysregulation back into, a place of clarity, having more energy, feeling more aligned at the end of the day?
Yeah, absolutely. So people get comfortable in their own chaos. And what I mean by that is a lot of times people are stressed out all the time because something happened in childhood that put them in a chronic stress state, whether it be, they didn't have the food and shelter they needed, or they were in a hostile environment at home, or, they were growing up with a narcissist in the family, or they're growing up with many siblings and always fighting for attention, right? Whatever the case may be, perhaps they had childhood trauma, things like that. That really sets the stage for how we behave later in life. And the truth is, when we're in a chronic stress state, we can't heal in the same state of mind, in the same state of energy that created the disease in the first place. So here's where it gets a little wonky for some people. Part of what I've developed isn't just the physiological side, it's the energetic side. So when I really first started getting into holistic healing, it started with energy healing. And really what that is rebalancing the energy field in our body, dealing with limiting beliefs, any sort of perspectives that might be limiting us or might be challenging the way we look at the world, any trapped emotional baggage, trauma baggage, all of that. All of that makes up our energetic field. And scientifically speaking, our energy actually precedes our physiology. So we are energetic beings having a physical experience, not physical beings with energy. And there's a lot of science behind this. Believe me, this is just not all woo, right? Which is just the Chinese word for energy, by the way. So the emergence method combines both of this energy healing and the physiological healing. So we look at everything in layers where everything is connected, mind, body, and soul. We go deep psychologically and into the subconscious mind and the subconscious body to help resolve a lot of the imbalances on an energetic level so that we can start manifesting better on a physical level. And going through those layers. Yeah.
So it's as much mental as it is physiological and the implications of lived experience from what you're saying.
Even more so.
Yeah.
And not even just mental, but energetic in general. And our mental expression is only part of our energy. So 90% of what we do is subconscious, right? It's about changing the subconscious programs and making the energy in your body such that it attracts what you're looking for in life, right? Like matches like. It's the law of attraction, or The Strangest Secret, if you've ever read that book, right? It's all about getting our energetic electromagnetic fields and our energy to match the world that we want to attract toward us.
So for someone listening, right now who feels stuck, maybe they're performing on the outside, but, kind of piggyback on some of the things that you just shared, that they're still struggling internally, right? Maybe childhood trauma, those kinds of things. What's the first step that they can take to start reconnecting, not only with themselves, but also just to start moving forward or toward becoming the best, healthiest version of themselves?
Right. I think the biggest step you can do is to start meditating. And that doesn't have to look like really deep, kind of, dressed in orange robes type of meditating. Meditating, I define meditating as anything that makes you lose track of time. So if you love doing something artistic like drawing or crafts, if you like cooking or gardening, right? Do something that really puts you in the present moment. Routinely every day. And the more you can do that, where you're not worrying about the past or putting yourself in the future, then you can really start getting into a routine and eventually start just sitting quietly with yourself and going inside and reconnecting with your inner self. Because if you want to change your outside world, you have to start with your inside world. Your outside world is a direct reflection of the health of your inside world. And as soon as you can start really reconnecting with yourself on a deep level and healing internal wounds and traumas and challenging your core beliefs and allowing your mind to open and allowing yourself to just let go of the need to control things that are outside of yourself, that's really foundational for starting to move the needle forward in your life and get your health back on track in all areas.
So if I'm hearing you right on the meditation piece, it's really anything that actually brings you some kind of mental stability or feeling of peace. Would that be fair?
That's one way to look at it. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I just like the fact that typically, I mean, I've tried things in the past, like I had the Muse app, if you're familiar with that, like measures brain waves. I'm kind of a tech geek, I love stuff like that. But I mean, from what you said, you don't have to do that. I mean, just something that kind of gets you in the zone, that gets you away from thinking about the things that are causing stress in your life. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, sure. That works. I mean, I just find a lot of people are afraid of the word meditation, right? They're
Yeah.
like, I can't do it. I can't sit still, which by the way, there's no such thing as a bad meditation. So it's okay if
Yeah.
you can't sit still as long as you try for a few minutes, right? But just starting with something you enjoy doing. I
Yeah.
mean, like I love to cook, right? I love to get in the kitchen and just try new recipes and experiment with things. And I'll be in there cooking for hours and it feels like 20 minutes to me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
So kind of doing something that
something like
gets you
that.
in the zone, right? Where anything
Hmm.
that's a distraction is not top of mind awareness.
Right, right. So the more you can get yourself to be in the present moment, the better.
Yeah.
Because there's no such thing as the past is gone and the future doesn't exist yet.
Right.
So stay present. And the more you stay present, the more you appreciate the here and now. And, the more you enjoy your life and are able to focus on what matters, the more you're going to be aligned with the types of abundance that you want to attract into your life,
Well, Cynthia, we've got just a
including
few
your
minutes
physical health.
left. Few minutes left in the episode. I definitely want to give you an opportunity just to share where people can learn more about you. Where can they find you on the web, on LinkedIn, sign up for a newsletter, those kinds of things before we wrap up?
Sure, thank you.
You
And
bet.
my website is Crescent Holistic Health. I'm sorry. My business is Crescent Holistic Health. Stumbling over myself today. My website is crescentholistic.com. And then I'm on LinkedIn /Cynthia Fluck, CynthIaFluck. And yes, my husband's worth it. A lot
Very
of people
nice.
laugh like, is that really her last name? So those are the best two ways. And I publish a weekly newsletter on LinkedIn. And also that's reflected on Substack too. Also Cynthia Fluck at Substack. So I would love to connect with people, love for you to learn more. I know it's a little bit of a paradigm shift, but that's what I'm here for. I'm all about giving you paradigm shifts.
Well, Cynthia, thank you so much for just the time today. I think one of the biggest takeaways for me is that you can't lead at your highest level if you're consistently worrying about what's going on in your body, right, and not being fully
Mm-hmm.
aware and fixing those things first. And at some point, the cost shows up, right? Whether it's in our health, our clarity, our ability to solve problems or make good decisions. And if today's conversation resonated with you, I just want to encourage you to take that first step, get curious, reach out to Cynthia, get curious about what might be going on beneath the surface so you can be better for yourself and members of your team. And to everyone watching or listening, thank you for being a part of the Lead Empowered TV community. We will see you next time. Thank you so much, Cynthia, for sharing your expertise today. I really did enjoy having you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. Have a great day.
You too.